The United States Constitution was established during the Enlightenment, in which John Locke's ideas of the social contract inspired colonists to establish a system in which people willingly gave up certain rights for security and government. It also established the rule of law's idea of equality through the phrase, "all men are created equal."
The rule of law has three different interpretations. In one interpretation, the term means rule according to law. This means no individual can be ordered by the government to pay civil damages or suffer criminal punishment except in strict accordance with well-established and clearly defined laws and procedures. In Powell v. Alabama, 9 African Americans were accused of raping 2 Caucasian women, and Alabama officials sprinted through 3 trials in 1 day. This was a direct violation of due process rights.
The second interpretation is the rule under law, which means no branch of government is above the law and no public official may act arbitrarily or unilaterally outside the law. In the Watergate scandal, the rule of law was upheld in United States versus Nixon when the Supreme Court ruled that even the president is not above the law.
Additionally, in this context, it also means that no citizen is above any other citizen. An example of this is the 15th Amendment, which states that the right to vote should not be abridged by race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Conversely, congressional insider trading allowed for elected officials to buy or sell securities based on information gained on the job, but was recently banned by the Stock Act.
Lastly, the term means rule according to a higher law, which means the government cannot enforce any written law unless it conforms to unwritten universal principles of fairness, morality, and justice. This can be seen with Supreme Court case Loving v. Virginia, in which 2 people were forbid to marry due to different races.
This expectation of equality is not protected in other nations. In the Middle East, specifically in Afghanistan, where the Taliban established an oppressive regime that administers cruel public punishment, limits women's education, and prevents access to free market ideas. People under government that lack rule of law often desire equality and rights, so they look to the United States system as an example.
This can be seen in documents of other nations where parts of our Declaration of Independence are apparent. In France's Declaration of Rights in 1789, key phrases such as unalienable and sacred rights of man and free communication demonstrate inspiration from the United States Constitution.
Through the rule of law, power is divided, allowing citizens to have power, make changes, and ultimately hold the government accountable with specific rules and laws they must adhere to. The United States' commitment to the rule of law is seen through the constant edits, additions, and abandonments to the documents. In the Declaration of Independence, commitment to the rule of law was seen in the list of grievances when the colonists were willing to call out their king in order to form a better society. Further, the Articles of Confederation stated each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence, which is not expressly delegated to the United States, which violated the idea of rule under law because each individual state could consider themselves sovereign nations.
Contrastingly, the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights states, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Through this, the rule under law is being upheld because any power that is not entrusted specifically by the Constitution is given to the states and people to decide. This ensures that the Constitution is the law of land, and that government power is not above the citizens, protecting equality.
The preamble to the Constitution begins with the phrase, "we, the people." It was not a dictator or king claiming divine right, but the people that ensure justice, domestic tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty. Society is not perfect, making our Constitution imperfect. However, history has shown us that our system, by enforcing rule of law, has a capability to improve along with society. Thank you.
You guys were like good at looking at the judges kind of, but you didn't really look at each other when you talked. Does that make sense? You like kept looking up, but you guys didn't look like it was either to the judges or like your face was glued to your paper.
Lindsay, where's the emotion? Emotion. You're like a bobblehead, no offense. Why are you nodding? You look at someone and you nod, and you look at your paper and you nod.
I thought you answered 3 questions pretty well.
I think you do it pretty explicitly as well. Like you take phrases from the actual question, particularly with the second bullet point, that you talk about the commitment really explicitly, which I think works. The one question that I had was when you were talking, I think it was in your part, you were talking about how the 10th Amendment, and then you related it back to the rule under law. And I don't know if I missed the link, or, because like before that you were talking about how the nation was really committed to.
Read it again, read
documents.
that section, Kathy.
Contrastingly, the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights states that powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to states respectively, or to the people. Through this, the rule under law is being upheld because any power, where's the 10th Amendment? Oh,
Yeah, it's the first, just to me it sounded like kind of out of place almost. I don't know if I missed something, but it sounded kind of isolated.
The second time you read Lindsay, there's something, could you just read that again?
Yeah. Through the rule of law, power is divided, allowing citizens to have power, make changes, and ultimately hold the government accountable with specific rules and laws they must adhere to. The United States' commitment to the rule of law is seen through constant edits, additions, or occasional abandonments to documents.
Okay, so that's like what documents to document, you know?
Okay, so we should say
Um,
which
I think
documents.
that was in reference to the Articles of Confederation, but I think
Okay,
that's
kind
what
of-
we talk about, that's what we talk about in that next part.
So I feel like since you're unit 6, I wanted more like 21st century examples.
Well, they did have Afghanistan.
Yeah,
was
that
very
too.
relevant. Yeah.
Okay.
And then one thing that I think might, I don't know if it would be a good example or not, but the Pakistani girl who got shot for promoting women's rights
Okay.
and like right to education, like Malala Yousafzai or something.
I think in that part where Kathy reads the 10th Amendment, you guys can limit the whole thing and then just explain how it relates to under the rule of law instead of giving the whole 10th Amendment.
Yeah, that like this was one of the things that we needed to edit, but we never got to. And like the one I'm not sure about taking out right now is if we should take out the like, because it kind of repeats. So it's like further the Articles of Confederation stated each state retains sovereignty, freedom, and independence, which is not expressly delegated to the United States. And then we have contrastingly the 10th Amendment, the Bill of Rights. So like, should we keep the Articles of Confederation example, or should we bring in the 10th Amendment
I
example?
think the 10th Amendment.
Or should we even
10th
have?
Amendment.
So we should have the 10th Amendment and just take out the Articles of Confederation.
Yeah.
And that would get rid of the abandonment confusion,
Mhm.
if we got rid of that too.
Yeah, I think that would be a better way to go about it.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, let's do the next one. What do you think are the greatest challenges of American citizenship? How and why does constitutional democracy in the United States depend on active participation? What are the advantages and disadvantages of being a citizen of this state and the country? When you're ready, you may begin.
Jose Saramago, a modern political philosopher who wrote heavily on the reform of government, stated, "As citizens, we all have an obligation to intervene and become involved. It's the citizen who changes things." In modern days, citizens are the foundation of the United States government, which was founded on the ideas of individual rights and classical republicanism. Another founding idea was how active participation of citizens is the best way to achieve the highest common good for society.
We face challenges from an unyielding hyper-partisanship leading to many problems such as apathetic citizens, political gridlock, and a negative societal change. In his farewell address, George Washington said, "To the efficacy and permanency of your union, a government for the whole is indispensable. No alliance, however strict, between the parts can be an adequate substitute." On recent issues, we are unable to make great progress because we have two opposing parties unwilling to cooperate, as well as an inactive general population, making it impossible to achieve reform on issues such as immigration and education.
Currently, this can be seen with the controversy over the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, which, according to a survey done by the Democratic polling firm Lake Research Partners, 78% of Americans who are likely to qualify for subsidies are unfamiliar with the new coverage options offered to them. In sum, a lack of adequate education about policies creates many problems in a country that is dependent on active and informed citizens.
Citizens involve themselves through voting, campaigning for candidates, holding political office, serving jury duty, and petitioning the government. However, becoming involved in voluntary religious or humanitarian organizations allows citizens to provide a check on the government power and achieve change. Without these actively involved citizens, a constitutional democracy fails.
According to the 10th Amendment, powers not delegated by the Constitution are given to the states. The United States system of dual sovereignty between the states and national government establishes a unique federalism. U.S. v. Cruikshanks explained that a person is a citizen of a state and the nation, but his rights are different under each government. Through this, the ability to make laws can lead to conflicts between states and the federal government.
An example of this is that each state can control how heavily firearms are regulated within their state. Meanwhile, the federal government has its own regulations. This can lead to a disadvantage since a citizen is subject to both state and federal law.
Which can be seen in Lopez v. United States, in which a man violated not only state firearm laws, but also federal firearm laws, and could have been subject to punishment by both the federal and state governments.
However, an advantage to being a citizen of the nation as well as the state is the right to vote in both national and state elections.
A unique characteristic and advantage of being a Nevada voter is the options on the national and state ballots, because Nevada is the only state with a none of the above choice. With this, citizens have the opportunity to show his or her distaste with the candidates.
Societal and political change is inevitable. Some negatives arise with this change, such as hyperpartisanship plaguing our society. However, positives also arise with societal change in our country, as we can see with the 15th and 19th Amendments. However, it is ultimately up to the citizens of the United States to address challenges we face, ensure domestic tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty. Thank you.
320.
There wasn't enough of the second bullet on active participation. It was like Koch's part, and I think that might have been it. I would like to hear.
It's just scattered. Like they talk
Yeah.
about it in the intro, they talk about it in Koch's part. I think they link it pretty well, actually.
I'd like to hear ways outside of the law, like civil disobedience, with that, just being actively resistant.
What I thought was like the whole thing is like the challenges of American citizenship, and I think you guys focus on like one, you focus on the hyperpartisanship, and like you do bring that into like the gridlock and the disillusionment, but I think you could either like bring in another problem or just like almost explain those a little bit more, like how they're affecting and why they're such a challenge.
Okay.
Also, for the advantage of being citizen of this state, you only bring up really one for Nevada, and Mr. Clark said that's always kind of, they want more about what's an advantage of living in your state, so.
Like the what?
Is it in there still?
No.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I like the final
What happened?
quote.
The tax part got out.
corporate tax get taken out.
Oh, the Washington.
No, in Nevada.
With the
you don't have
federal
to
and
pay.
corporate taxes.
I think you guys were long and wanted to, because you guys were long with it last time, weren't you?
We were super long.
That's what
Like
I
we
thought.
just like seriously edited the crap out of this.
So you have room. Add one more, so write this down. You need one more example of active participation and reinsert the tax part. And hack the Obamacare. Just put Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
I think we can reword that better.
So don't have.
Just don't even have the Obamacare. Just call it the Affordable Care Act.
And I think I still have the original, so I can just copy and paste it. Okay.
I think I have it too if you don't.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, let's get the last one since we're a little bit behind. That's okay. What are the best ways to achieve constitutional change? TJ said let's do it every generation. In what ways, if any, have constitutional amendments helped the United States become a more perfect union? When you're ready, you may begin.
In his first inaugural address, President Abraham Lincoln said, "This country, with its institutions, belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of the existing government, they can exercise their constitutional right of amending it." There are two ways to achieve constitutional change. There are formal changes, which include judicial review and the amendment process, and there are informal changes, which include social influences such as the media and partisanship. The Constitution can be altered and reinterpreted to stay relevant to our era and morals within our society.
Thomas Jefferson argued that the Constitution should be rewritten every generation rather than using the established system. Jefferson argued that as a new generation emerges, they have the right to choose for itself the form of government it believes most primitive of its own happiness. This may be true today as the Constitution could not address issues such as the Fourth Amendment and how it applies to privacy through the internet and other technologies. Locke believed revolution is a right of the people if they are dissatisfied with their government, so Jefferson's idea of rewriting the Constitution every generation mirrors Locke's views.
However, the idea of writing the Constitution each generation is flawed. Rewriting the Constitution creates opportunities for a tyrannical leader to be appointed and puts too much emphasis on current issues of the day rather than creating a lasting Constitution that protects rights. Specifically, in a country encumbered with hyperpartisanship, it would be far too easy for the party in power to embed their own ideals into the new Constitution without regard for other views.
For example, desperation during the Great Depression could have allowed President Franklin Roosevelt's infamous court packing scheme to be tolerated. essentially giving them control of all three branches of government. With a packed Supreme Court, President Roosevelt would have been capable of passing any legislation he wished without interference from the other branches of government, superseding the idea of rule of law.
Further, hyperpartisanship can also lead to gridlock that impedes the process of writing a new constitution. Inability to compromise would lead to a stalemate that would slow the process of creating a new constitution. While Jefferson's idea may have worked during his time, in the modern day it would only lead to disagreement, destruction of old values, and government that only serves the needs of the people for a short term, without regards to needs of the future.
The Constitution is a document capable of being reinterpreted and amended, allowing for flexibility in a changing world while still providing protection of life, liberty, and the fundamental rights. Due to this, the process of amending the Constitution is a slow, measured process. Before an amendment is passed, 2/3 of the House and Senate must approve the bill, and then 3/4 of the state must also approve it.
The reason for this slow, measured process is to ensure that the moral intention of the amendment will fit into one of two categories, either describing government procedures or expanding people's rights. With the exception of the 18th Amendment, which was eventually repealed, the majority of the Constitution's amendments have reflected the creation of greater equality in rights.
The Bill of Rights protects the ideas the Founding Fathers believed to be crucial and essential. Through the addition of amendments, more rights have been recognized and more effective government procedures have been put in place. Incorporation is outlined in the 14th Amendment, which demonstrates the most fundamental preservation of rights. Incorporation allows for rights recognized under the federal government to be applied to citizens in the states.
Before its ratification, states were not held accountable to abide by the Bill of Rights, but this amendment allowed the Supreme Court to apply the Bill of Rights to the state cases that were presented to them. The 15th and 19th Amendment also demonstrate the idea of equality by giving voting rights to women and by prohibiting the denial of suffrage based on race or gender. Further, the 13th Amendment also promotes equality by outlawing slavery.
Through the addition of constitutional amendments, the United States has become a more perfect union, based on the fact that people within the United States are ensured rights and protected from the violation of rights. By putting strict procedures on the government in the amendment process, the people of the United States have the ability to place checks and balances on the government.
The Constitution and its amendments demonstrate that since the beginning of our nation, the belief in natural rights has been protected and expanded. Having a lasting Constitution with established rights and procedures protects the rights of the people, while the ability to amend and reinterpret the Constitution allows for adjustments to society's changing morals and customs.
Do you guys need a last part?
What
Do you need the last stop sign? Stop, you went over time.
Do you have to like literally stop?
That's telling you that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we need to.
How over were we on?
420. Like you were at 4 right when he started. So my question is, do you need your last part? Because did you read 3 times?
Well, that's just because
No.
the highlighting got super messed up. I messed up the highlighting today.
So are you saying like we don't even need the whole last paragraph because it's already in?
I think it's already there. I don't think you need it. I think you can stop right there. I don't know what you guys think, but I think they could stop right where Brent said and give it to Annie,
Yeah.
or reorder it, and so you finish. So you guys keep your order because you went boom, 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 and then
Yeah.
come back.
Um,
Okay.
So just get rid of the whole last part I said because it's